All right. Hey, everybody. This is Emily. Lauren's going to join us in just a little bit. But we are super excited today to have Delphine. And Delphine, I'm going to see if I can make you the spotlight video. There we go.
Oh,
Yay, there you are. Um,
yeah, that's scary.
y'all, I'm so excited to have Delphine here today. I originally heard her speak on Storytellers Live. I don't know if y'all know about that podcast, but it's a podcast out of Birmingham where women get the opportunity to share their story and what the Lord's done in their lives. And I heard her story, and it just really, really resonated with me. Not only personally with how she handled her divorce, but also how she turned that experience into something really awesome with her business, Buolo. And so, Delphine, you've just done some amazing things, and I don't even want to take time telling it. I want you to tell the story. So why don't we just get started with you sharing a little bit about yourself, and then maybe we can roll that into Buolo and what it does as well.
Yeah. So I'm Delphine Carter. I'm CEO and founder of Buolo Solutions. Buolo was launched about a year and a half ago. And as Emily said, it was tied very closely to my divorce. And Buolo's purpose is to help women stay in the workforce. And we do that a couple of different ways. One is finding part-time, contract, or temporary, flexible, or full-time, actually, recently, flexible positions so that you can maintain your caregiving responsibilities, but also your career self. So you don't feel forced to always make that choice. When women take the off ramp for about 2 to 3 years, they lose, I think the stat is like 24% of their salary earnings. And so if we can help women not take that off ramp or have an option, then we can start making significant changes in that salary discrepancy. There's a greater salary discrepancy between women who are working and mothers who are working than men and women in salary, if that makes sense. So really the battle, yes, we are getting paid less compared to men, but mothers are getting paid less compared to non-mothers. And so we need to start working through the reason for that and why that is. So Buolo steps in. Right now we're doing the matching services for job opportunities and sourcing those, but we're evolving and we're about to go out and try and raise money because we're evolving the solution to where we can put your career mobility into your hands. So we'll be able to tell you, Emily, let's go to Emily and Jessica, your interns. We'll be able to tell you, give us your goals in life, your career goals, and then we'll help you get there. We'll tell you what additional training you need, how many years under your belt before you can really succeed. How can you step back a little because you think you might have children and want to spend some time with them and then get right back in. And so we're going to use technology to help women own their careers more. And so that's Buolo in a nutshell. Right now you can go online and apply. We go through a vetting process and make sure that everybody's ready to get back to work or ready to step down from full-time. And we also launched, this is a more exciting one, during COVID, we launched a board member search. So in order to get more female board members in publicly traded companies, we have to get a lot more women with board experience. It's very tough for small and medium-sized businesses to fill their boards with diversity because their network is so isolated compared to a massive company. And so our job is to take women who are board ready and match them with businesses that we're already serving and that have to have boards. So we're hoping to tackle it a few different ways, but Buolo is there to keep women in the workforce so that they can have their career and personal selves.
Wow,
That's a really long way to describe it.
No, but it offers so much and it's so needed. I mean, I can think about myself years ago after I left practicing law full time, had my both girls within 2 years, and then I started to think about like, okay, I want to go back, and I just remember thinking like, where do I even start? You know, how do I find that? And I think there's so many women that feel that way.
That's what we hear the most from women is I either currently feel unfulfilled and I'm hyper focusing on my kids and I'm getting the feeling that this isn't healthy, like I'm micromanaging their entire lives. And so I need something that's going to just bring back that other fulfilling side of me, or my family's hit a financial situation where I have to get back to work. And so we've got those two, and women come in and say, I don't really know how to start. I don't know how to translate my gap. And I don't know how to even know what I'm good at. And so through our onboarding process, it's a 360-degree onboarding that helps you understand what is your value, how do you have an elevator pitch to really show yourself and to prove that while you were not working, you were actually working, you just weren't getting paid, and translating some of the things that you were doing into a job.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you weren't just a mom, you weren't just on the PTO. You were doing things that if those volunteer opportunities, if you didn't volunteer, somebody would be getting paid for them.
Mm-hmm. And I loved when we talked earlier about this, how you said like saying I'm just a mom, you know, I hadn't been doing anything for a while, like what that translates to the person that's interviewing you. Do you work with them through that, like kind of
We do.
how to sell
There's,
yourself?
yeah, so we help them create that elevator pitch, and it never includes the word just about your history. We try and get women to start describing themselves over the phone call so we know how they would do it to somebody who's hiring them, so we can help coach them through some of those words. Just is one of the most confidence killing and perception killing words that women can use. And so that word just needs to go away. Figure out something else. On our own, our internal language that we use with ourselves is the should. So I should have been doing more while I was with my kids. I should have spent more time with my kids, and now I want to step down. That whole should cycle that we end up, my therapist tells me all the time, quit shoulding all over yourself. And so it's that should word is super.
Right.
Those are the two words that we just need to ban from our brains. Reframe them, figure out another filler word that you want, but those are just so damaging.
How do you reframe that in like your own personal life with those shoulds? How have you found?
Yeah, like even with a divorce, right? I believe that adult decisions fall on the kids' shoulders, and that's really a tough thing to grasp for anybody that's going through a divorce or considered it or just in a situation that's unsteady. And so you think through all the shoulds. I should have known better to begin with, or I should have handled this differently. I should have prepared my kids. And you can go through your entire history shoulding your actions, and even here forward as a single parent, I should spend more time with my kids instead of working. I should be working more and earning more money because we need to make sure they go to college. And you can just go back and forth all day. So I'll say, right now, my decision is to be with the kids. And so just own that decision and put a pin in it for right now and ignore the shoulds,
Mm-hmm.
because you just won't ever focus on what you're actually trying to accomplish if in the back of your head you're shoulding.
Yeah. No,
I just own it. Own what you're doing and say, I'm doing it. Right now, I am focusing. I've got a class that I'm taking from 5:30 to 7:30 every Thursday. It's led by a prominent VC. It's incredibly important. I've got to do it. That's also dinner time. That's also when the kids are around. I'm not second guessing that decision. I'm rolling with it.
Right.
I'll work with the kids in another time. I'll take time off, you know, in the middle of the week when they get out of school, and we'll go ride bikes at Oak Mountain. And during that time, I don't get to say I should be working.
Right.
I own that moment.
Delphine, this is Lauren.
I see you.
Hi. Can you give us like a cool case study from maybe like a woman that you've worked with who now is working, that connection was made through Buolo?
Yeah, and I apologize for the blower behind. Right when this call started, the contractors who are fixing my air conditioning unit showed up, so there was a whole lot of drilling. So I'm trying to find the most quiet spot. There's a couple great examples. We've got a mom who she's graduate from Swanee. She had stopped working to be with her kids, had always felt like there was a side of herself that she had tabled for that decision. And she went to her kids a couple times and said, you know, I want to get back to work. And the kids were saying, but I want you around. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but mom, then who's going to make my snacks? Mom, who's going to do this? And they're high school kids, so they can make their own snacks. Just open the bag like this. And so with her, she had been very active with volunteering in the classroom, with leading different things around the school, and then also with the McQueen Center and other volunteer opportunities. And so what we did was took that and translated all the project management that she had done, all the money earned, like listed out how much money did you earn for the school during that time as being part of a campaign. How did you grow during that time of volunteering and what you learned with McQueen? Because even as you're volunteering, you're learning about stuff, you're playing in systems that you maybe weren't originally messing with. You're learning new language and new process. We had another woman who had raised money. Sorry, she had done the purchasing agreement for all the Promethean boards in her school system.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't even mention it to us until we started digging. She didn't see that as a value, and realizing that there's people who get paid to source products for the schools. So anyways, we got this one woman back to work, and then we get emails. This is the most fulfilling part of our job, is we get emails from people saying, thank you so much. This has helped my family because I am now feeling me. Like I am back to feeling like Emily, like Delphine, like Lauren. I'm back to feeling like who, and this is how I interpret it, God meant for me to be. We are on this earth for a purpose, wherever you find that drive and wherever you feel that purpose comes from. And you have got to pursue that purpose. And so sometimes it's acknowledging you're taking that one step forward to head towards that purpose. It's super scary, but once you get there, you get such a sense of fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, realizing that like not everyone is going to be supportive, and that's okay. Like you know what you're supposed to do, and like you've got to let those other voices just kind of let them go, because otherwise you can't move forward.
Yeah. Do y'all know the person that founded Spanx? Sarah Blakely.
I wish I knew her.
I know. She actually gave us an incredible grant. And so I'm super grateful to her, but her story is really incredible. The number one thing she says is there is nothing more vulnerable than an idea in its first year. And so she kept Spanx quiet and never shared it with anybody else until she started working on it and getting traction and let the idea bake a little bit further, because people that love you are scared for you and want you to be safe and comfortable. And so if you go to them, for example, with Buolo, and I say, you know what, I'm going to quit my really good full-time job. I'm a single mom of 2 kids, just recently divorced, trying to figure things out, and I'm going to start a company. For a lot of people, it's, oh, Delphine, you don't need that extra stress. You just went through a lot. You know, why don't you just take a year and think about it? But I prayed hard about it. I knew it was what I was supposed to be doing. I was very confident in it, and I just went for it. And so people will tell you all sorts of things out of love, but you just have to either pray, find one person that maybe doesn't love you quite as much and is very logical to help you work through it. You know, one of the biggest problems with working in Birmingham, I say this a lot about the tech field in Birmingham, is it's tough to find somebody who's going to give you the hard truth, because we're all so kind to each other and we're also, bless our heart. And so find somebody who's just going to give you the harsh reality of what you're doing. Most of those people, if you've got a good business idea or a good personal idea, will help you get down that path.
Mm-hmm. I love that advice. And I know, like, when I was trying to decide what I was going to do and change careers, Lauren was that person for me. And that's how we got to know each other so well. And now we're in business together. It's perfect. But for a solid 2 years, she was just a mentor and somebody that would listen to me. But what I love the most about her and our relationship was she wasn't pushing me to only do the safe thing. Like you said, there's so many people that are like, no, you've got to keep your life really simple. You already have enough stress.
Safe.
Like, don't, and you're like, but that's not what's making me like come alive. And when I really started to pursue my dream, I could feel like my life opening back up. And it's hard for other people to see that because they want to protect you. But those people that will speak truth to you, like Lauren did for me, was a game changer.
It's interesting. That's something else I think is really important, is we randomly run into somebody, and it's super awkward to say, can we do coffee again? If it's not somebody who's in your typical circle. But what I started doing was just asking people who I didn't truly know, but you could feel there was like some kind of click there personality wise, to try and get to know them better. And that has given me more strength, more supporters, more people that I can support even, and more ideas for how to grow than if I had just stayed in my community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is a great word. And I think that sometimes it's really hard for women to network. Like, we don't like that word. It makes us feel nervous. And so like, what would you say to women who are trying to build and expand their network of people that could maybe help them?
Be open to it, right? Like, it feels like speed dating a little bit. You walk in and you're sitting at coffee and you're like, I'm wearing the blue shirt. And so that feels really weird. But once you sit down, it'll flow, and it'll pay off. That time will pay off. And it may not be every single meeting, but it's the majority of the meetings that I have end up paying off for sure. And in COVID, it's a little more difficult, but then it's a Zoom, right? And sometimes you can even be more real. Like, I'm going to show up without any makeup, or I'm going to have my hair in this ponytail because I was helping my son with his 7th grade homework till 10 p.m. So you can be super real. But we talk about financial decisions too. You can talk to other women about how are you feeling financially secure? How are you moving your career forward? How are you helping other women, or your favorite charity? Sometimes that's how we'll learn about a nonprofit we in our hearts should be supporting and didn't realize was even out there.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Just be open to it.
Yeah. And I think just telling people what you want to do. Like, sometimes there's just a lot of power in that. Like, hearing their story and saying, well, let me share with you like where I feel like I'm being led. And it's so interesting to watch those doors open, and they would never have been open if you hadn't taken the time to just share,
That's right.
And that's
and
where,
just be open to it.
Yeah, just be open to it. Well, I would love for you to take just a few minutes and tell a little bit about your story of how the idea of the Business of Boolow came about, and sort of like your inner monologue of figuring out like what you were meant to be doing after your divorce. I love that.
Yeah, so I got divorced, I guess it's 3 years ago, and maybe 4 now. And my ex was a fabulous dad. Didn't need to be married. Fabulous dad, so he got the kids 50-50, right? So I found myself with 50% of my time off, and I had choices. I could sit there and wallow. I could go out and like bar hop and do like an unhealthy kind of way to deal with it and do all the dating apps and all that stuff. Or I could put all that extra time and energy into something that felt fulfilling and felt like it was resulting in good. And so what I started doing is I, for free, would take a lot of the leadership training that I got in my career from Daxco and Shift and other companies. And I would go to small nonprofits and say, I'll help train your team in leadership. And so that was just me trying to figure out how can I give back in a healthy way and use this time. Well, after a couple of those leadership trainings, I met somebody, Catherine Gregory, who ended up being my co-founder, who said, I would love to do this too. I would love to help nonprofits. I've been in a stay-at-home mom forever, and it took me forever to find a good job, but I can bring some really good things to a company. And especially nonprofits don't have a massive budget to hire. So Buolo originally started as a way to get super genius women that are sitting in carpool and want to work in the hands of a nonprofit for less salary. And then what it ended up segueing was, well, let's just do this for all companies. But some people get a divorce gift. So some people say they get like a ring they've always wanted or a car they've always wanted. And so I consider Buolo my divorce gift. I gave myself a company. And so I decided that I was going to put my time and energy into building something that got women back to feeling their whole selves.
Yeah. That's so cool.
And the other part is being financially insecure once you get a divorce. And it was thinking, if I can build this company, then I've got something that will pay in spades and also be fulfilling. And so I'll be more confident in what I'm doing. But I was it's very insecure as a single mom to quit your full-time job and say, I'm going to go grow this company. And that's the leap of faith we talked about earlier. And also just being confident in knowing what is the minimum that I need to live and have the life that I think my kids need to have.
And we talk about this in our course called the Comeback Theory, which y'all as Wealth Edit members have access to. But it's the same thing, like what you did, which we describe is like when you're talking about, you could sit there at the bottom, like here, you had all this up here, or you thought you did, and then now you're at the bottom. You can just wallow in that and like, or feel insecure. Insecure is a real feeling that you probably do feel, but you've already lost everything. Like everything you had before, you already lost it, you know? So now's the time to take like a risk, because you don't really have that much to lose. I mean, if it's amazing, great. If it's not, oh well, you know. I mean, it's just really, I think sometimes we overinflate. Maybe everybody does this. Maybe this isn't specific to women, but I think we overinflate the risk that we might be taking. Maybe it's just asking someone out for coffee. Maybe it's, I don't know what it could be, but I think we okay, so they say no. Well, then I move on to something else, you know?
I hate to say it, but this is why I think it is largely women that do it. Is I'm sure y'all have heard by now that men will apply for a position if they meet like 60% or 70% of the qualifications, where a woman waits until she's got 100%. It's that fear of getting a no, right? The guy says, I'm going to go ahead and apply because what's the worst that can happen? Mm-hmm. For women, it's I might get a no and then that'll hurt, or that says something about me that I'm not ready to hear, or it reaffirms something that I already think about myself, versus I'm confident. I know I've got qualifications and I know I could do a good job, so I'm going to go for it. We talked about this. It's the monster under the bed. So when you're little and you hear noises in your closet or under your bed, you can let your brain carry that through to where it's this massive monster or a boa constrictor or whatever it is your imagination's going to do. But if you look under, it's really probably just a piece of paper rustling, or your cat got under there and you had no idea, right? We can make something that's uncomfortable into a monster super quickly if we don't just look at it in the face and say, okay, this is my next step to kill that doubt or to kill that insecurity. This is how I'm going to take that monster and just smush it.
Mm-hmm. And if someone says no, 90% of the time it has way more to do with them or some external, who knows what's going on. Maybe they're sharing text with an 11-year-old like I am, and like they, you know, don't receive all their texts now. You know, I mean, it's like there's all sorts of reasons why that, you know, you might get a no or a nothing. That's fine. There's so many opportunities out there. Just move along, you know, who knows what will happen. So
move along. And sometimes that no, if you wrap back around and say, hey, you know, I'm really trying to pursue this career or this path, and saying, could you help me say what would have made my resume a win? Don't say why you picked the other person, because that's bringing somebody else in. What would have been a win for me? What could I have had on there? What could I have phrased differently to make it an opportunity? And HR directors love that, because rarely do they have someone that is saying, I'm not fighting you on this decision. I just want to know what could make the difference the next time I try. Mm-hmm. We tell our women a lot. This is probably super, I don't know, but we say, I actually read it on Kerrigan's bathroom wall. It was a work meeting, not me just going out, but it was, may you have the confidence of a mediocre white man. And it's 100% truth. Like there's a confidence there that white males have been taught from the get-go to just keep pushing, keep trying. You may not be tall enough, go out for basketball. You may not be strong enough, go out for football. That women, we've been a lot more in the, you need to be perfect to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great advice. And it's so hard to get past that. But I did find, like, in my own personal story, those first few times that I did it, like I just like made myself do it just for the sake of doing it, you know. It really becomes easier and easier and easier. And then finally you find yourself, just like Lauren said, being like, if they say no, at least I tried. And then you just move on. I mean,
it's funny, that first year after my divorce, I named it my year of why not. Because I would think, okay, I was dying to go to Cuba. And so, you know, there wasn't a ton of people who were willing to go to Cuba. So I just went by myself. It was a why not? Like, why can't I do that? There's no reason I can't do that. Should I start a company? Why not? You can do it on the side. Just start doing it when you have free time. What's the harm in trying it? And so I just started looking at things from a why not, instead of a why should I?
Yeah.
Back to should.
That's a great idea. Okay, switching gears just a little bit, just because I do want to make sure we cover this before the call's over. But you talk about, when you were making those decisions, you did have an idea of what your financial situation was like. You knew how much you needed to make. You knew kind of where you could take risk and where you couldn't, which I think is an integral part of being able to say these why nots, because there is going to always be at least the structure of your finances around some of those decisions, just so you remain in like a position where you're considering your financials wisely. But where did you find your confidence in finances?
And so my father passed away. He was, he had been CFO at a major company, was all the financial guy, but he had never made my mom take ownership on that. So when he passed away, I remember sitting in his office in the house and looking at all the papers, and she was like, I don't understand any of this. I don't know what all these accounts are and all these investments and and he had even like typed out like, this is where you go for X and how to do all this stuff. And I realized I never want to be in that situation ever. Like, I never want to feel that insecure about, do I get to stay in my house? I mean, she just had no idea from we have nothing to we have a ton. That's how off she was on their finances. And so my ex-husband and I, we kept an Excel spreadsheet that we literally sat on the couch once a month and would look at our growth and look at where it was going. And if you remember when everything dipped, we would look at our dip and say, okay, what do we need to do to make sure that we can get through the dip? And so we would put all of our assets together, and we just had one spreadsheet, super simple spreadsheet, but it helped me understand what was our family net, what were all of our assets, what was our value. And so when we sat down for the divorce, it was all right there, and we knew exactly what levers to pull and what things had to be split and all of that. So once I was single, I knew exactly, I've got this to play with. I've got this that I will not risk. I will not ever touch this. So let's start making decisions. And it's important too to understand, like, what are the penalties if I do take out of an IRA? Where are the different ways? Do I want stocks and dividends where I'm getting a constant drip of money as a security blanket? Or should it be in another place? And so it was very important to understand how my portfolio was set up so that I knew how I could move forward and the risks I could take.
Mm-hmm.
And we even switched, like, we were a little more aggressive because we were younger. And then so when I went by myself, there were some things that I made less aggressive because I knew I was taking a big risk over here.
Yeah. Well, did you feel like having an understanding, like the way that you did, which seems like you made something that could be really complicated into something really simple, which is like the key. But
Matt and I aren't friends at all.
So, yeah. And it's like, we talk about this in financial minimalism. When organizing your finances, you have to figure out what works for you. There's not just like, if everybody would just use this spreadsheet, then you'll be fine. It's finding that system that works for you, that makes sense to you, and that you can look at every month and feel like you have a clear picture of where you are and where you're going and where you have been, really.
Yep.
So sometimes that's just as important. So, but in making your decision to be able to quit your job and then pursue something that you felt like you were being led to do, I think having that understanding is so important. Did that give you like more peace in making that decision?
100%, because when you leave a company, you're now paying your own taxes, Social Security, health insurance. And so I had to be comfortable saying, okay, I'm not going to put anything into my retirement for X years. How does that change the trajectory that I'd wanted for my full plan? And I could say, okay, I can do this for 3 years. By 3 years, I've got to make a decision. And it doesn't mean that I shudder, but it was one of those, I will have to make a decision about how I want to proceed. But you at least have that number to know I am okay and on track until this point.
Yeah.
Delphine, thank you. This has been so helpful, and this is so relevant to so many women who are thinking, my kids are getting a little older, I want to do something. One of my greatest friends in the world, she's like, I just feel like I should be earning more than X percentage, and there are trade-offs. Like maybe you know, it's going to take a little while to build back up, but it's worth it. It's worth the journey. And so anyway, we're just so appreciative. I don't know if anyone has a question, but you can take yourself off mute or use the chat feature, but we wanted to open it up for questions for a couple minutes, if that's okay, Delphine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Sometimes it's a quiet bunch.
Yeah, I don't want people to be scared of that, you know, stepping out of the workforce and losing so much of your salary. If you are considering having a child right now or have a baby and you're considering stepping back, think about stepping, they call it the scenic route versus the off ramp.
Yeah.
Think about taking contract jobs or staying involved in some way, asking your boss if they'd be willing to let you be flexible.
Yeah, that's great. All right. Well, it looks like it's a quiet bunch today, but we are so grateful to have y'all as a friend of the Wealth Edit. And thank you so much. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. This was great.
Right.
Okay, bye.
Have a great day.
Bye, y'all.